beloved empress dead, and everyone thinks you are the killer, but we know what really happened.
Hello and welcome to the Eurogamer Expo Developer Sessions. We've got a very special guest for you now. It's my great pleasure to introduce the writer and director of Heavy Rain and next month's Beyond Two Souls, David Cage.
Hello everyone, it's a real pleasure for me to be here with you today to tell you a little bit more about this game we developed for about 3 years now. Beyond is a game that we wanted to be different. So it's not a game, as you know, about shooting or jumping or driving cars. It's an emotional journey into the life of someone. So we wanted to create an experience that would be really unique, that would be very different from anything you've played. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more today about the game itself, the story, but also about how it plays, because this is mainly always the question. I mean, yeah, okay, there is a story, but what do I do? Is it just a long cutscene? Is there something to do? Is it just QTEs? It's always the question. Suspense. And I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how we created this game, how we worked with actors like Ellen Page and Willem Dafoe. But before we start, we had the great honor earlier this year to be the first video game ever to be in the official selection of the Tribeca Film Festival. So let's see a little bit what we showed there, which will be our introduction for today.
Hello?
Nathan?
Jody? Jody, where are you?
They're back.
Good God, Jody, what's happening?
I'm tired. I'm so tired.
Tell me where you are. I'll come right now. Jody! Jody!
I don't think I'm gonna make it. Ever since I was born, I've been linked to an entity.
Hey.
Judy?
You know, sometimes adults imagine things too.
Jeanette,
Jody.
welcome back to the land of living, Jody.
His name is Aiden, and he's always with me.
What did you do to that boy? Susan, this is gonna stop before we end up crazy or dead.
Please don't leave me here.
You're a monster! You hear me? A monster! It's over, Jody. It's over.
Now concentrate, Jody.
Some things that I'm not proud of.
Used me to do your dirty work. Tell them to leave me the fuck alone, because next time I'll kill everyone.
It's gonna be okay. I think
So, everything you saw in these trailers are captured from the game. So there is no pre-rendered images, everything is real-time. It's a brand new engine we have developed since Heavy Rain. We were kind of happy with the engine we had on Heavy Rain, but we thought we could go much further with the rendering and we could do much more with the PlayStation 3. And actually what happened is that we were developing this PlayStation 4 engine in parallel because of the particular relationship we have with Sony. We work on the console for a little bit more than a year. And we started developing features on PlayStation 4, and we thought, okay, maybe there's a way we can adapt these features to make them work in a simpler version on a PlayStation 3 console. So we started adapting, for example, what we call physically based shaders, which is the way each material reflects lights in a specific way. For example, plastic reflects lights in a very specific way that is different from wood or from metal. And before, most material were reflecting light exactly the same way. With Beyond's engine, now each material has its own way. And we played with cinematography and lenses and depth of field and all these things that we try to improve to have better visuals. So before we go back to the technique, let's talk a little bit about the game itself. Beyond is the story of this young woman called Jodie Holmes, who has a link with an invisible entity since the day she was born. And she doesn't know if this thing is a ghost or a spirit or the soul of someone who passed away, but this thing is always there with her. They are really tied together. They can't get separated. And this is not a situation that makes Jodie or the entity very happy. Jodie has only one wish, is that she could just be like anyone else and have a normal life. Because having a link with this entity is not something particularly, pleasant. This entity can be very nice and protective with Jodie, but it can also be possessive, jealous, even violent. So Jodie will have to learn how to live with this thing, and to see we're going to see how this love-hate relationship is going to evolve through time. Because Beyond is not just the story of Jodie at one moment in her life. The story takes place through 15 years of her life. We'll see her as a little girl when she's 8. We'll see her as a teenager. We'll see her as an adult. So the game takes place between 8 and 23 years old for Jodie. And we'll see how she changes through the years, how she learns, how she needs to accept who she is and this strange relationship with this entity. And the whole story is told in chronological disorder, what we call fragmented narrative. It's instead of having a timeline where you see as a kid, a teenager, an adult, actually we mix all the moments in a life. So this is a little bit disturbing at first when you play. So, okay, it jumps from one moment to another. But as you play the game, everything falls into place and you start to understand what's going on. So it was definitely a strange idea, certainly a risk for us to do something like this. And we thought, okay, people are going to be disturbed and they may not fully understand immediately what the story is about. But we thought, what's interesting with this thing is that it creates a very interesting momentum, very interesting dynamic for the story, because it's up to the player to connect the dots. And he will see some consequences before the causes. He will see one character that obviously you know very well before seeing the scene where you met him, etc., etc. But instead of being passive watching the story, you become also, the story becomes interactive at a macro level, and you need to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And it gives you a real feeling of living the life of someone. And by the end of the story, our hope is that you really feel like you lived the life of Jodie Holmes, because you know her since she was a little kid. You've been with her in the happy and difficult moments in her life. And you really feel like she's someone you know because you know where she comes from and what she went through. So this is about the story, which is, of course, extremely important in Beyond. I don't want to tell you too much, or even more than we already said, but we got very positive feedback from the first people who played the game, and I hope you'll enjoy the story. So let's talk a little bit about gameplay. Gameplay is always the key issue when you talk about interactive storytelling. It's always this big question: what is there to play in a story-driven experience? And you got different examples when you look around. You got people who think that, oh, we can have games that are just about violent actions in loops, and then we have nice cutscene in between, and then more violent actions in loop, and then more cutscene. But the story is only told through cutscenes, which is one thing, and it gives a very strange, choppy, in a way, experience where story and gameplay are totally separated. At the end of the spectrum, you have people like Steven Spielberg or George Lucas, very respected filmmakers, who said in an interview a couple of months ago that interactive storytelling is not possible. You can't do it, because what they say is that the second you give the control to the player, it's impossible to tell a story. The story is gone. So all this is very interesting between what major talents of the film industry think and what the game industry currently does. We tried to find for several years at Quantic Dream a solution answering these questions and to show that yes, a story can be played. Not only can it be played, but it's also a very compelling, very unique, very interesting experience. It's not like a film. In a film, you watch the images on screen and you can get emotionally involved, but you cannot change what's going on. The story is told once for all. Where in a game, what's absolutely unique to this medium is the fact that you can change what's going on. You can be in the shoes of the main character, main protagonist of the story, and decide what you want to happen. You can make choices that will have consequences. And this is what makes this medium absolutely unique. So I don't make one interview without a journalist asking me, but hey, don't you want to make films? Hell, no, I'm making games. This is what I want to do. And I want to do this because it's absolutely a unique medium. It's the only one who can do this kind of things, who can put the player in the shoes of someone. But in order to do this, you need to think a little bit more about how you do it. I don't think that what this industry currently does is very, clever. Because when you separate gameplay and storytelling, and that your storytelling is only told through cutscenes, that doesn't work. It doesn't work because you kill, oh, a bit of story. And then kill, another bit of story. Okay, that's something. What would be more interesting and what we try to achieve is to make sure that it's the player who tells the story through his actions. The story is told by the player himself and not by cutscenes. So that was for us the main challenge. This is something we work on since Fahrenheit, Heavy Rain now. With Beyond, we try to find other solutions, even better, to better interlace narrative and interactivity. So let's see exactly how it works, because sometimes there is some anxiety about which button am I going to press to do this or that. Honestly, I'm more interested in what happens in your mind than what you do with your thumbs. But it's also interesting to know what you're going to do with your thumbs. So let's have a look. So first thing, of course, you're in control of the character second to second, and what we try to do is to adapt the way Jodie moves depending on what's going on, and also depending on your state of mind. So she can run. When you walk in a fire, it's a different walk than when you're stressed, etc., etc. We also gave you much larger environment to explore, much more complex, and there's much more exploration in Beyond than there was in Heavy Rain, and of course you're completely free to explore them. We also came up with a new interaction system. We wanted to get rid of any prompts on screen, so we just used these little white circles, and you just need to make the move with the right analog stick. It's very simple. You go in the direction of the movement with a right analog stick. So it's not just pressing a button. It's really about unfolding the movement. And it's entirely based on motion and the sense of mimicry. It's more intuitive. But most of all, it offers endless possibilities because it's contextual. So instead of having just a set of actions, you can do whatever you want. New system for action, no more QTEs. We use a system that is really based on bullet time, very simple, bullet time and motion. When time slows down, you need to continue the move in the direction of Jodie with the right analog stick. It's very simple, it's much more intuitive. It's more immersive, but most of all, it's entirely contextual, which means that you never see twice the same movement in the game. You never have twice the same animation, never see twice the same sequence. Everything is different. Each move is unique. But the main part of the gameplay, and what is really new compared to Heavy Rain, is the fact that you can switch at any moment between Jodie and the entity. And when you're this entity, you're invisible, you can fly around, you can go through walls, and you're entirely free. And you're in full control, of course, as always. You can really go wherever you want. You can also see people's aura, and we'll get back to this in a moment. But you can also interact with matter in many different ways, with small objects or sometimes some more spectacular things. And you can interact with auras, depending on the colors of the aura, in many different ways. And there are different things that this entity can do interacting with people. It can choke them to death, or it can possess characters and then control them to make them do different things. And all these interactions combine to create an experience that is very fluid, so that was it, very simple concept. With Jodie, you interact with the real world. You can interact with people and matter in a normal way. With Aiden, the ghost, you can do whatever a ghost can do. You're invisible, you can fly around, you can go through walls, interact with people and matter in a very specific way. These are just some of the things that you can do. What is very important is that you can switch between the two characters at any point totally freely. Press a button, you're the entity. Press a button again, you're back to Jodie. And you need to make the two characters collaborate in order for the story to move forward. So, as I said, what is very particular with this game, and that may be disturbing at the beginning, is the fact that you tell the story as you play. So don't wait for the cutscenes to make the game move forward. Actually, it's as you play, as you make decisions, that you tell the story. And it's very interesting because we wanted to avoid to have, big flashing words telling you, oh, wait a second, there is a choice. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? No, we wanted all these choices to be organic and to be implied. We wanted you not even to know when you were making choices, just play this story, do what you think is right, and make the story move forward, because we thought that that was the most, organic experience, fluid experience that we could offer. And sometimes it's funny, when we tested the game, we had some people saying, oh, love the game, great experience, but was it a bit linear? Okay. And then we had round tables with these users to let them talk together, and they started talking about their experience, and they were saying, oh, did you see the scene where this and that happened? And the other players said, well, no, I didn't get that. And suddenly the conversation started, and people started to realize that they had very different experiences. What they thought was linear, because there was no obvious choices flashing in front of them, because everything was organic, actually, their experiences were very different. They missed different things, and they had very different versions of the scene. An interesting application of this idea is, how do we deal with game over situations? In most video games, what happens is that if you have not played the game the way the designer wanted you to play it, black screen, game over, go back in time, and replay again until you succeed. which is fine for games that are really action-driven, but which doesn't work really for story-driven experiences. So we thought, okay, what else can we do to avoid this? Because in the context of a story-driven experience, it doesn't really work. So we thought, we want to create an experience without game over. Let's try to give a consequence when you fail, a story-driven consequence, instead of giving you a black screen. So when you fail, you take a different branch, and you'll have to deal with the consequences of your actions. Let's see a concrete example of that, because this is a little bit blurry. Let's try to make it clearer. So this is taken from the scene called Hunted, where Jodie is a fugitive. She's searched by police forces. She's in a train, and she's sleeping. If you wake her up, you have a chance to evade and to escape. But if you didn't wake her up with the entity, different version. The guys see you, realize who you are, but this is not a game over. This is not a game over situation. That leads you to a different part of the story where now you're a prisoner. We'll get back to this. Let's go back to the version where you escaped. Okay, you managed to escape in the train. Eventually you get in the bathroom and you can go on the roof of the train and try to escape this way. That's just one of the options. That's one version of the scene. But remember, if you've been captured, you're a prisoner in this train compartment and you need to find a way to escape. There is a guard there. Maybe there's something you can do. Let's go back to another version much later. This is the very end of the scene. If you play, depending on how you played, you could have reached this moment, destroy the scene, the people chasing you, and finish the scene, or get captured. And that's going to take you to another scene. No game over. Now you're prisoner in this, car with soldiers, escorting you, and you need to find a way to escape. So this is something you guys will be able to test by yourself, because this is actually the playable demo of the game. Play with it and you will see how you can succeed or fail depending on how you play, and how the story takes that on board and provides different, solutions, different stories depending on how you play. We have a little time now to talk a little bit more about how we created the game. Really proud to bring world-class talents like Ellen Page and Willem Dafoe to the game space. Working with them has been an absolutely amazing experience. And it's not just about Quantic Dream or me or Sony, it's about the game industry as such. I really think that they bring something we have rarely seen before, which is really a fantastic experience, fantastic performance. And this is really something that you don't just enjoy in cutscenes, as I said. I think that Ellen Page in particular really gave a heart and soul to a character in a way I have rarely seen before in a video game. So let's have a quick look about how all this thing worked. So we use this technology called performance capture, used by James Cameron on Avatar. And this is our motion capture set in Paris. So it's this big empty space with 65 infrared cameras all around, so we can really film in 360 degrees. And everything takes place in a small environment.
Every second of movement you see and beyond is motion capture, ranging from simple in-game motions, walking, turning, all the way to stunts, fights, full-person fights on train roofs, to performance capture, to full facial and body capture at the same time.
It's not your call, Aiden. I can do what I want.
It is unusual to go in and wear the suit and have these dots on your face, and it's interesting because you're kind of like limited in certain ways, but you're also way more free than when you shoot a movie. I mean, you could kind of do whatever you want.
The games we make at Quantic Dream are based in reality. Everything that actually happens in real life has to happen in our game, and the only practical way to get that is to capture the real thing. We have to rebuild the world out of cardboard and tape and foam. We have to make sure it matches what's in the game, and we have to make sure that we can actually capture with it, because there are limitations to motion capture.
So we have these very strange props that look really miserable, but they respect exactly the dimensions of the real set in 3D in the game, so all the contacts are fine.
We can't use a car door in motion capture because it's shiny and it's really heavy. We can't see through it, so we have to build the approximate of a car door, but it has to at least have some of the real properties of a car door, because just closing a cardboard doesn't play the same as a real car door.
You're in a car, and it's this ridiculous looking thing made out of 2x4s with a, steering wheel.
I'm a guy that likes to, when I'm going through a casual environment, I like to have my hands in my pocket. Well, your performance capture shoe doesn't have pockets. So we created these Velcro straps that became my pockets that I would have something to put my hands in.
It's like pure imagination. Not just the fact that you're, shooting a scene in a submarine. Cool!
I was sure you'd love that.
Or you're getting briefed about this intense mission that you're about to go on in Somalia.
Jamal Sheikh Sharif.
It's like being a 7-year-old with your best friend and you're pretending that the world's gonna end and the bad guys are coming and we have to jump from couch to couch and avoid the lava.
I think that's also what makes it challenging, but also really incredible and like raw.
Everything becomes kind of bare and essential, but also it's sort of disturbing sometimes.
When you're eating in a scene and say we're eating pizza, it's like a little piece of triangle cardboard that, thank God, says pizza on it, or else I would not know what it is.
We built the helicopter where there is this very intense dialogue between Jodie and Clayton. So everything was on wheels and we were moving the helicopter.
Because I trusted you!
Performance capture is digital acting. The trickiest part of performance capture is the preparation. It's getting people ready to perform. Depending on how many actors you have, it takes a while to put the 90+ markers on the face. They all have to be placed specifically for them to work right on the rig.
So you have 88 dots, these beads all over your face. Not only that, but you got all these hard ball-like Velcro things all over your body as well. It's gonna pose a little bit of a challenge. I mean,
all these little balls.
I've got like 10 bruises in my arm. Everything's very refined because they want to have a vocabulary to play with. So you try to be the material. You try to give them as much as you can.
In our game, we have dozens of hours of animation. Capturing everything among that enormous amount of focus of the team to shoot almost every day during 1 year. And then, of course, treating all this data, bringing it to the character in the game.
Jodie. Jodie, where are you?
It's her back.
The game itself really requires emotion and subtlety, and I think there's no other way to capture all that than the way we're doing it. They rely on each other. We couldn't get this performance without performance capture, and it wouldn't be worth getting unless it was from these people. It's a really great mix of technology and talent.
So this is in a nutshell how we did it. So we used this technique called performance capture, again, that was used by James Cameron on Avatar. What was very important for me was that this technology would be non-intrusive for actors. Because sometimes you see in the making of these great films, people having helmets and projectors in the face and cameras or backpack or wires and stuff. And I thought, well, this is not going to work for me. I want something that won't be intrusive at all. I just want actors to act and not to be, disturbed by anything else. So we developed this very simple, actually, technology that allows to capture an actor just with, 90 dots on the face, about 90 dots on the body. These shiny balls. And this is how we captured everything. What is really special, I mean, if you want to know some of the secrets behind this game, it's the fact that we shot all actors together at the same time. And that's a big revolution. What you need to understand is that most games, even today, and this is how we captured Heavy Rain, are shot in 2 different takes. That means that you are in a sound booth first with an actor and you record the voice and his face. And then you make a second session, sometimes with another actor, where you play the audio and you try to have the gestures on top of the dialogue. And we did Heavy Rain like that, and that works. But when we started dealing with full performance capture with this short called Kara, that you guys maybe saw, we realized what difference it made. Suddenly it was a completely different performance because we had body language. Suddenly the face, the voice, the body were in sync, and we could get subtleties and emotions that we couldn't get before. Another very important thing is lighting. In most video games you have one light lighting the entire world, and when you try to get very close shots you usually have very ugly, shadows and stuff. Here, every shot has a specific light. So it's like in cinema. In cinema, when each shot has a specific lighting system, same thing here. So we have about 30,000 shots in the game. Each one has a specific lighting. And this is how we get this very unique, very special rendering. One last word about the actors. Working with Ellen and Willem has been fantastic, as you can imagine. It's been quite a strange experience for them because on their first day, all actors had the same reaction. They just arrived and we tried to prepare them. We talked to them, we showed them videos, so by the time they come to the studio, they know what they're going to do. But still, they arrived in this big empty space, look around, say, okay, where is the camera? Well, there is no camera. The camera's all around. Okay. And what about the lighting? What about my marks on the floor? Where are the mics? And there's nothing like this. It's just you. You just act. There's no constraint. There's no point of view. Don't worry about the lighting. Don't worry about the sound. We take care of everything. Just act. And on the first day, they were all really disturbed. Like, oh my God, I mean, I have no constraint. And on the second day, they thought, wait a minute, I'm free. I don't need to worry about all these things. I can just act. And that was exactly what we wanted. It's really like stage acting in a way, because you just have to deal with your script, your character, and your partners. And that's pretty much it. One last word before we finish. A very important feature for us is something we learned from Heavy Rain. On Heavy Rain, talking to fans, we discovered that many people played the game with someone else, which was something very interesting and very new. There was this person holding the controller and playing, but there was the second person who was not a gamer, who just arrived and played a little bit the puppet master. Do this, do that, don't go there, shut up. Okay, can see that you experienced that, okay, good. And we thought, okay, that's very, very interesting. And sometimes it was the girlfriend or the wife. Sometimes it was a friend who was not a gamer. Sometimes it was the parents or even the grandparents. There was a guy who told me he played the entire game with his grandmother. Cool. And what we thought was, okay, what can we do to allow this second person to interact with the experience, not just watch and play the puppet master, but actually play? And it was a very simple answer for us on Beyond, because we had 2 characters. So one player could control one character while the second player could control the entity or Jodie. And they could play together. So we implemented this 2-player mode in the game. But we thought, okay, that's great for people who are gamers, but there are also many people who are not used to this DualShock controller that is absolutely fantastic for hardcore gamers. But not everybody was born with a DualShock controller in their hands. There are some people who think like, wow, I don't even know how to hold this thing, this piece of plastic. There are buttons all over the place. And we thought, okay, what can we do to allow these people to play and enjoy Beyond? And we were looking for a device that would be simple, accessible, that everybody would have. And we thought, all touchscreen devices, they are the right solution. They are the right answer. So we developed this free app called Beyond Touch. that will allow you to replace the DualShock controller by any touchscreen device. It's available on iOS and Android. It works with phones or tablets. It connects to the console via Wi-Fi, very simply. And from this point, you can play the entire game in single-player mode if you want, just using your iPhone. That's what you want. Just with one finger. It's a very simplified interface, makes the game very accessible. Where it becomes interesting is that you can play with someone. So if you're take the DualShock controller, if you play with someone who is not a gamer, the second person will have a touchscreen device and you can play together. And for us, this is a key feature in the game. We try to expand the audience of games. We come to them with a story-driven experience with Ellen Page, Willem Dafoe, original soundtrack produced by Hans Zimmer, so should have a great, great soundtrack, and try to make the game accessible to more people by changing some of the paradigms of video games, including controls, but also including gameplay. And this is it for me. I don't know if we have time for Q&A.
Sorry,
that means no.
We have to wrap the session up now because we have to get ready for the next
Fantastic.
session. So please,
guys, thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you all for coming. If you'd like to meet David, please don't rush to the front of the room now because we need to get ready for the next presentation. But he will be on the PlayStation stand at the back between 3 and 3:45 today doing a signing. So drop by and say hi then. Thank you.